Good morning. It is Friday, October 23rd. My name is Jason Stanton. I serve First Lutheran on Alaska as senior pastor, and this is my morning musing for today. Um, I always record these musings outside. I have also, for a little bit of self-care, instead of recording these the morning of, I've gotten into the habit of recording these the afternoon or evening before. And it's really gross outside. So I thought you wouldn't mind if I did my morning musing in the evening from inside rather than outside. But I'll get back out there. I can handle it, right? Little 35-degree rain shower. Gross. Anyway, that's not what I was musing about completely. I am in the middle of my second reading of a book. And it's Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of the musical Hamilton and a lot of other things. He said, I watched an interview with him a few years ago now. And he said, so I sat down and read this Ron Chernow book, this biography, Alexander Hamilton. And he said, as I was reading this biography, I thought, so this must be a musical already, right? he felt like it was just so obviously something that could be put on stage. I mean, if ever the creative bug bit somebody so clearly, it was to him, to Lin-Manuel Miranda at that point when he's reading what many would feel like is a really boring book about somebody that lived hundreds of years ago, and he's like, oh no, this would work. This would work as a Broadway musical with rap. Anyway, so I'm reading this again, Alexander Hamilton, and I read a couple nights ago something about debt. You know, Hamilton is the first Treasury, the Secretary of Treasury. He's the first one for Washington, and he's got to create all the everythings, right? Is there to be a banking system in the United States? Is there to be debt? And that's the part that I've been thinking about is Hamilton actually said, and I think pretty famously, a national debt is a national blessing. And what he was trying to get at was that having debt together, you know, these very independent minded colonies that were now states, they'd been loosely joined, but they were very separate states. And so Hamilton's like, well, if we're going to do a one nation thing, if we're going to be one country, there's got to be things that tie us together. A debt would do that. A debt would have, if states each held some of the debt and said, hey, federal government, you owe us, well, then they're all going to be interested in seeing that debt serviced. If individuals across the country hold paper against the government, they're going to be like, we want that government to pay us for this paper we hold. And so his understanding, his idea was, this will be something that unites us. It's also something the federal government, Hamilton was thinking, it's something the federal government needs in order to build a defense force. It's something we need to build infrastructure and roads and bureaucracy that is meant to serve the people. Like, we need money in order to do that, and the only way to get that money is to go into debt. And so he really, really felt strongly about that. It was very controversial. Of course, he was right that the debt at the beginning of our time together did unite us, did make us stronger faster. His suggestion was that it should never get so large that we can't pay it off. So I'm not sure that, you know, today's $22.8 trillion federal debt that we have was what Hamilton had in mind. I'll say more about that in a second. But along with that idea that debt can unite us and give us an influx of cash so that we can go do something special, I've also got the voice of Dave Ramsey in my head. When Carl and I got married, our pastor told us there's like this one category of communication and being together that you're really going to struggle with, and that is money. She and I just think about it differently, talk about it differently. And so we were put onto Dave Ramsey. And Dave Ramsey is all about, as much as Hamilton says a national debt would be a national blessing, Dave Ramsey could not possibly be more opposite from that. He's famous for the debt snowball. Get rid of one debt, use the money you were paying to pay that off, put that toward the next debt, then you take both of those payments that you were making, put that toward the third debt until you're done with all your debt. One of my favorite quotes from him is "Act your wage." So I looked up some of the debt numbers. According to one consumer debt study, total consumer debt in this country is $14 trillion. People my age, 40 to 55, have an average debt load of $135,841. The average credit card debt is $8,000. The average mortgage debt is $238,000. The average auto debt, $21,000. Student loans, $40,000. And there's assets that go against that, but so to make the average what it is, but that's incredible, that amount of debt. Student loans, cars, credit cards, and our homes put us into so much debt. And when I think of debt and what a blessing it's not, I then think of, what about debt in the church, being a senior pastor at a church? The church used to think more like Hamilton, that debt would unite a bunch of families around this shared project, which is to go into debt to build some special thing that's going to serve the church and then pay that off together. Our question in this day and age is, what if we united financially? What if we, members of First Lutheran, united financially around something more religious, around something more sacred than simply paying bills? I know our bills go to support buildings and all sorts of things that support ministries. I know that as well as anybody. But I guess I've been wondering, what if we had no debt? What if we could more clearly say, when somebody gives $1 to this church, to connect the dots with, and then your dollar pays off debt, which then does this, and then we're able to do that. What if we just said your dollar to this church goes to a Bible camp that equips people to be Christians in their lives? What if we were able to say that dollar you gave to this church went to feed hungry people? It indirectly did stuff like that when we were servicing debt, but it's just more clear when we're rid of debt, it seems to me. And so I've been wondering, what does a church do without debt? We're about to find out. Because on November 22nd, we're going to burn our mortgage. And I'm really excited about that. I've been wanting to do that for a very long time. So 2021 and beyond are kind of an experiment to see, how does a membership respond if the financial engagement thing that we do together isn't debt, but instead is clearly ministry. I guess we'll find out together.